there, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I'm Afefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond, checking in with you all today on some political developments. And I actually am gonna I'm gonna ask for your comments. I don't know how to do a poll section, on the screen, but just I am asking for your opinion on the second part of this taping. So first part, I want to look at self-destruction of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Clearly, she's going off a cliff. She doesn't have the support to oust Johnson. But also, I want to take a look at the relationship between Mike Johnson and Hakeem Jeffries. Right now, arguably, Hakeem Jeffries is showing serious muscle. He's on an upward trajectory. I don't think anybody would argue with that. But he has really been, a powerful force, and he is becoming ever more so, increasingly so, with getting things done in Congress. I mean, without him, what would have happened by now, right? Now, Marjorie, of course, is losing her mind because this has caused Mike Johnson to have to work with the Democrats. And now Hakeem Jeffries has come out and said, we will keep him. If she makes this move, she puts this vote out there, which she says she's going to do, we will keep him. That's not going to happen. He's going to finish his term, and then if things go the way we think they will, it'll be bye-bye for him. We'll see probably more than likely Hakeem as the speaker. But I do want to take a look. There's this term being floated out there now, the Uniparty. What used to be called good old fashioned bipartisanship, right, in Congress. Now it's a Uniparty, like everybody's defecting and becoming something else. That's something that Marjorie's putting out there. But I do want to take a look this morning, you all, at the relationship, the dynamic between Hakeem Jeffries and Mike Johnson. Clearly, ideologically, couldn't be more different. Doubt seriously, that they sit down and be, serious dinner companions or anything like that. But I do get a sense that, and I don't believe for one moment that Mike Johnson has had some change of heart in some of his positions. He is still a very, very hard line conservative from the state of Louisiana, period. But there's something going on there, you all. And I just feel like there's some sort of, I think it's not just machinations, it's not just manipulations behind the scenes between Jeffries and Johnson. I think there is some level of understanding, mutual respect. I've got a 4 of Cups, and I just pulled. And again, I'm looking at the dynamic between the two of them. I've got a 4 of Cups. It's almost as if they're both worn down, or they recognize, because all those cups being spilled in a 4 of Cups, it's like a, kind of energy. But it's because there's been so much water under the bridge. There's been so much divisiveness, so much polarization. I think they're both a little fed up with it and worn out by it. And yes, there have been so many conversations between the two of them. There's the 8 of Wands, a card that very often indicates, and it's been there's a swiftness here we often attribute to this card. And that, I think, means there's been a ratcheting up, especially in recent months where, Jeffries was very instrumental in helping to avoid the government shutdown, get the funding for the government. And then we got the Ukraine funding, and Israel, we have to mention that. We got that, he got that to go through. And so there's been a lot of uptick in the communications between the two of them. Johnson has realized since coming on board in the chaotic fashion that he did as speaker, that he does need Hakeem Jeffries as a balancing point. And I think Hakeem has proven to be extremely diplomatic. Nancy Pelosi has been very vocal about saying, his statesmanship, his intelligence, and his ability. He understands how government works, and he understands how to do his job. So yes, there's been a lot more. They've grown to know one another more than their reps, more than their reputations and the talking points that were around them. Now they have enough direct contact with one another that they're getting a sense of knowing who they're working with. And as I said that, I just pulled the Three of Pentacles. That's the working card. Look at that. Collaboration. You see them, there's a goal up top with that. This is the work that's being done, and these are the people that need to do it. There's I got a ladder, you got a hammer and a nail, right? So there is that. Now, so they have formed, it's not a bond. The spirit is like, don't you go there, Afefe. It's not a bond between the two of them, Johnson and Jeffries. But there is a certain level of respect in terms of at least understanding each other's positions. And I also think there's a level of trust that's been formed there, because Johnson had to rely on Jeffries, and Jeffries had to convince Johnson, if you do this, if you go ahead and help us get this, put it on the floor, we'll get this Ukraine-Israel money passed, just as we did in keeping the government open and the funding for the government. We will step in when that time comes. We will step in and help you keep your job at least till the end of the year. And he was extremely worried about it. This was Johnson, 10 of Swords. He was stressed to the ends of the earth for all of his, bless her heart, I think he said, concerning Marjorie Taylor Greene, for all of that. He has been on pins and needles and really worried. Yes, did Mike Johnson's visit to Trump, and Trump coming out and saying, basically, look, he's okay. Let's work with him for now. Did that help ease him? Yes. But that's after he had been through an intense period of feeling like he had all these knives in his back. And he still is a little wary of that, because we do know there is that contingent out there. There's that Marjorie Taylor Greene contingent. But I think at this point, in terms of hard and fast supporters, it's what, her and two others, not enough. And finally, we have strength. This relationship is definitely being, it is about courage. It is about conviction. And on both parts, I think that they both are very, they're not trying to bend to each other's will in any way. These are two very, very, men who are convinced, and their convictions are very, very strong. But I think they understand the power dynamic, because that's the thing with the strength card. Again, I say this all the time when I'm teaching. It is usually you in a situation facing something much larger, something that could overtake you, that could overpower you easily, and yet you're not stressed about it. You are the one in control when you're facing that something larger. In the context of this relationship between, and this is going to be very, very intense between now and the end of the year, between Johnson and Jeffries, there's a sense of understanding that the large part, the idea that for all of this vitriol, for all of this chaos, for all of this angriness that's happening, that's that big part that could threaten to take them over, that they are in control, that they can put a lid on it, they can work around it, they can be really good operatives for their respective interests. And finally, I have the Seven of Pentacles. So there are still things that that are going to crop up between the two of them that are very uncomfortable. There's this with the Seven of Pentacles. There's a lot that's been done, but there's a lot that remains to be done. There's a lot of shifting dynamics that are going to happen because we're in this election year, and there's going to be. I think this is going to call for more meetings between the two of them. More, let's figure out how to stay on a certain trajectory, and get some things done. And finally, the Emperor. That's it. That's what's going to cause this, if there's a slowdown or a reassessment or so much work left to be done, because that's, oh boy, that's Trump, or wannabe Trump, coming in as the Emperor. And that is the one thing that that will sway Mike Johnson in terms of how he is able to operate and keep his promises, or keep his this tone that he's been setting, really, with Hakeem Jeffries. That's what tilts him, because he's almost, I'm seeing puppeteer strings. And so to the extent that he continues to see Trump as his ticket to keep him safe, over and above even perhaps Jeffries. Interestingly, too, I want to take a look at this, you all. Marjorie Taylor Greene swears up and down that she's in touch with Trump. Trump hasn't said a whole lot about her. He hasn't been mean toward her. He's been semi-complimentary, I suppose. But he hasn't said a lot about, what her plans are in regards to Mike Johnson. And yet she insists, even as she's talking about going ahead and putting a vote on the floor, I think next week, she insists that she's in touch with Trump. I don't know when, I don't know how, because goodness knows that man's got a lot going on right now, in between trying to be on a campaign trail and being in court. But wow, she has been in touch with him. 3 of Cups. That even is a card in some contexts, in the readings. That can be a card that reflects a little gossip, right? A little flow of an exchange. So yeah, she's not lying about that. She has been in touch with him, or at least his highest surrogates, his highest folk. But what is going on? The Tower. Whoa, yeah. You know what? If I'm getting the impression, Spirit saying, if Trump's people, or even Trump himself, can see her heading off of a cliff, it may be unfortunate, but nobody's trying to stop it. This is not, whatever these communications are, that are taking place between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump himself, and or Trump's highest advisors. It is not to her benefit. And I got a confirmation. Ace of Pentacles. There's a knowing that Marjorie has served a certain purpose at a certain time, and that time is coming to an end. And so whatever they are, and perhaps I am also thinking Spirit is saying, because of that Ace of Pentacles, she could be getting some reassurances that if things blow up for you and you are increasingly isolated in Congress, we will still find some avenues for you to succeed. We'll find something that you can do. We will find Page of Swords, 100%. New Page's energy is, something new, something fresh, some new dynamic. In Swords, I think she's they could be dangling a little carrot in front of her that, just hold tight, do whatever you're going to do, even if it blows up your positioning within the Congress. GOP, even some of those who are hard right have had enough of her, but she's being promised something. She's being promised some sort of move, some sort of deal where she can come out of this and still have a successful political career. All right. So having said that, now I'm going to move on. I said in the beginning of this taping that I was going to do an informal poll, but the poll will simply be your comments. I'd love to get them and get your feedback on this. I will put a link to this. Drew Barrymore had Kamala Harris on her show. And, so in her style, I wasn't familiar with her show, but apparently Drew Barrymore's style as an interviewer, as a host, is very, very, some would say almost too personal, in terms of, she's known for taking people's hands while she's talking to them. And she did this with Kamala Harris, leaning in and just real, in a lot of interviewer format styles, like late night television or otherwise. You're behind a desk or a chair and your guest is next to you, or even Oprah Winfrey when she does it. Maybe there are 2 chairs sitting angled toward one another, but there is a separation. Drew Barrymore on a couch, small little, almost like a little 2-seater couch or whatever, and she is like, there is inches between her leg and the leg next to it, right? You'll see. I'll put the link below. So Meghan McCain and her conservative self jumps up and says, this was effing disrespectful. Speaking of Barrymore's interview with Kamala Harris, that basically she crossed the line, she overstepped her bounds, and she was not respectful of Kamala Harris's position in office. That she was being basically, treating her like a girlfriend rather than understanding her position as a government leader. So I watched it. I I thought it was kind of amazing, to tell you the truth. We know that Kamala Harris has hit the trail hard, especially as it relates to the abortion issue and reproductive rights and women's health. She's been very effective in that regard, and I think she will continue to be, leading up to the election. So what Drew Barrymore did was she changed her audience. She had women only that day, and she gets into a conversation with Kamala. Yes, it was a little personal. It had to do with how, when she started dating Doug, her husband Doug, and there was this blended family aspect of it. And she was asking Kamala Harris how she handled that, that she was known. And so Kamala came out and said, I'm known as Momala. She talked about this way back on the campaign trail when she first decided to try and run against the whole slew of candidates back in 2020, right? So this is not the first time we've heard that term, but she went into some depth, and she didn't seem to be put off by the question at all. She was very forthcoming. You'll see again. I'll put a link to the video in the description box, so you can take a look at it and let me know what you think. But Meghan McCain and then some others. I went online, and there was a little bit of a backlash that she did, that Drew Barrymore tried to get a little too personal. There were those who even thought that Kamala Harris did not act vice presidential in that setting, but it wasn't set up for that. And you could see the way that it humanized Kamala Harris in a way that I think a lot of people in this country, as we go towards the elections, are going to be looking for. But I do want to go to Spirit and see, in fact, what did Kamala think of that herself? What did she think of that interview? The fact that Drew Barrymore scored a guest like the vice president, Kamala Harris, was a major, that was a win for her. So how could she not be absolutely thrilled and happy about it? But I'm wondering if Kamala Harris, how did she come out of that interview with Drew Barrymore? Did she feel that a line had been crossed? I have the Seven of Cups. It's an interesting card in response to that. I think this is saying basically, because with the Seven of Cups, it's like a whole bunch of ideas, a whole bunch of different ways that this could go. I think that, if anything, Kamala Harris may have felt that she thought more would have been covered, or she understood that what she was saying was going to apply to so many different people, so many different women who have had to deal with being a stepmom, and having to embrace it, having to blend families, that sort of thing. So she understood the bigger picture of it. And wow, this is really interesting. 8 of Cups on the back of the 7 of Cups. Well, I want to go a little deeper. Hold on. Bear with me. 5 of Swords. The Lovers. Unity between men and women. And the Empress. And I always see her as the Empress. I always see Kamala Harris as the Empress. Okay, I get it. She thought the messaging could have been done a little better. She thought that the way that Drew Barrymore presented the questions could have been done in a broader context, because what Drew Barrymore did, and I want to show you this, the Lovers. So this was the idea that she was speaking to, the unity between men and women, and how they connect and blend families together, finding unity, finding the common ground, that sort of thing. And then I always get the Empress for Kamala Harris. That ability to create and grow and be seen as a Momala, right? Having sort of that fierce, protective, mothering, divine feminine energy. And she does have that. And it's one of the reasons I think she's been so effective on the issue of abortion and reproductive rights. Because she does have that Momala quality to her. And she owned it. I mean, she was very, to me, her body language, her facial expressions, and Kamala Harris doesn't always have a good poker face, and she's been criticized for that. Sometimes she can get, you can see those eyes will get really, piercing, and she'll get a certain set in her face, her jaw. Sometimes if she's not pleased, she doesn't always wear, she wears it. She wears it on her sleeve. I didn't see any of that, but again, poll being taken. Please watch it if you have a moment. It wasn't very long, and let me know what you think. Uh, but I do have the Five of Swords here. That's a little bit of miscommunication or communication coming at cross purposes, and that takes me back to that Eight of Cups that came with the Seven of Cups. I think she was able to see it as a reflection of connecting to the women who have been through situations where they had to gain a certain level of emotional maturity, because at the end of the day, that is an energy from the Eight of Cups. Eight of Cups often feels like you've had enough and you're walking away from something. A lot of the artwork in mini decks, when you're looking at the Eight of Cups, can look sort of bleak. It can look sort of disappointed and down and dejected, but there's another way to look at that, which is with the Eight of Cups, you've had enough experience. You're going starting with the Ace through an 8. That means there's a lot of stuff that's happened. There's a lot of things on your emotional barometer that you've had to learn how to process about life. I think there's a maturity factor here. There's emotional intelligence here. And she understood in connection with that Five of Swords. I think what this is Kamala felt like Drew probably maybe could have handled it a little differently, but she was not. I don't see offense being taken here or any. I just got a confirmation. Ace of Pentacles. When I get aces and I'm in the flow like that, that's my guys. That's Spirit Guide's way of saying yes, giving me a yes. So yes, that's the deal. She has no regrets. She didn't feel offended. She didn't feel disrespected, as Meghan Kane, show some effing respect for the position of her office. I think in that setting, it is a talk show. It was, again, it was limited to women only. Clearly, Drew Barrymore and her producers were very clear about who they wanted their audience to be. And she did make mention, though, of the one time that I saw Kamala tighten up. I want to look at this before I close out. Drew Barrymore made a point. She took it a point too far, and I think that's why we got that Five of Swords. She said that Kamala needed to be Momala to the country. That at this point in our history, that we needed that Momala energy applied to the country at large. And you could see in that moment, at least I thought I saw, let me know what you thought, that Kamala was being extremely careful about how she responded to that, because she does walk a very fine line. If you noticed, within the last couple of weeks or so, headlines went ballistic about her showing up and being really effective and connecting with people and getting out there on the trail and just showing her chops, her political chops, right? After being, basically sidelined or whatever the struggles were. That's a whole other conversation. We just didn't see very much of her in the beginning of the administration. So now, but she was on fire. And then, boop, crickets. And then you started seeing more around Biden on the trail, right? So I do think, I get the sense that there's this balancing act that they are doing. That on the one hand, she can be a very powerful and effective running mate. On the other hand, if they do too much with her, you start to get a little pushback, especially among men, given Biden's age, and that age factor begins to creep up. Is Kamala someone who we would want to see, as Meghan McCain put it, with the nuclear codes? All right. We have Judgment that's come. This is really interesting. Kamala she is truly coming into her own. And she understands a lot more about, because this is a card of like an aha moment. This is where lessons have been learned. This is where a lot of karma has been cleared. This is truly this opportunity that she is having to connect with people on a more human level is very much something that she feels is her responsibility. It is a strength that she feels that she has, this sort of interpersonal aspect of her personality, of her, and even of her public persona. She does have that, and she has it in a very distinct way, separate and apart from Joe Biden. So I think that's it. She recognizes, and she also recognizes purely, sometimes this card can reflect judgment, being judged by others. And she recognizes that she walks that balance, that she does, that she has to be careful about that. But she's come to understand it. She has a better grip on it. And we have the Nine of Pentacles. Yes, she is determined to do whatever is necessary to help Joe Biden get reelected. She's all in, and she will walk that line. The Momager comment and anything that speaks to her as if she is overshadowing or overstepping her bounds as it relates to being a good vice president to Joe Biden, that is where she knows she has the experience, she has the wherewithal, and she's experienced enough, even in terms of being judged and criticized, to understand more about what her role is and how she can best go about it. I've got the Eight of Cups again and the Seven of Swords. She feels like it's unfortunate. She does feel misunderstood. I knew it. Five of Pentacles, a card of isolation, feeling left out, feeling a lack, a sense of lack. She does feel that people, and with the Seven of Swords, she feels that somehow there are parts of her strengths and her aptitude and her abilities that have not been effectively communicated. But here comes that Eight of Cups again. She is able to distance herself. That's where her prosecutorial background comes in handy. She's able to pull herself out of her emotional state, her getting in her feelings. She's able to effectively get out of that and move on toward, but this is the matter at hand. And I think that's a part of it here, is she does feel not that she's been misinterpreted or there's been some deliberate scheme within certain political circles or even the White House itself to downplay her. She doesn't believe that, but she has felt the effects of not knowing who she could trust. She's had a lot of people express support for her, and these are people who she would ordinarily trust. She's had a lot of people express support for her who ultimately she found out were being two-faced, Seven of Swords, and that made her be more cautious. But ultimately, what all of this has done is inform her. It has helped her rise to a different level on a national and international scale. And there she is. I can close it out now. Look at that. I told you I always get the Empress for her. So yes, we know that's who we've been looking at. Spirit is just giving us a confirmation that's, and you know what? This is how she sees herself ultimately. She sees herself as being able to produce results. She has extreme confidence in her own abilities, and she believes that she's very, she has strong convictions that when she applies herself, when she finds her groove on an issue that she truly feels strongly about, and we've seen this happen. So in the case of abortion, reproductive rights, in the case of racial discrimination, in the case of immigration, in the case of many things that she feels a certain deep and abiding connection with, she's able to effectively play a part in moving the needle on those issues. So yeah, Kamala's just fine. She was not angry or whatever. She may have thought some things could have been done in a different way with Drew Barrymore, but from what I can see in the cards, I think she was okay with it. Again, I'll post a link to the video. I would love to hear what you all think about it. Take really good care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.